afternoon, Hopper. Good afternoon, Trejo. Good afternoon, Harper. Good afternoon, Nina. Good afternoon, Dylan. Good afternoon, Hopper. Good afternoon, Miss April.
Good afternoon, Harper.
So a few months ago, I went to observe in a preschool classroom. And it was only about the second week of school. And when I went in there, they were just beginning their community meeting. There was one little girl who was leading the meeting, and they had some signs on the wall so she knew the order that they were doing their meeting in. And she just started going through the process. Come to find out, this little girl, this is her first time in this preschool room. So she's only been in school for maybe a week, so she'll probably only been there about 3 days. And she knew that she had to look at this chart to go through it. Well, every once in a while she would get stuck, and she'd turn and look at the teacher, and the teacher would just go. And then she'd look at a peer, a friend, and be like, I need help, and then the friend would help her. And then she'd continue on with her responsibility to lead this meeting, and once again she'd get stuck. She'd look at the teacher would go, and she would ask another friend to help her. So during this whole entire time, the children were in charge of the meeting. They led the meeting. And when this little girl was brand new, had a question, even though she turned to the teacher, she also knew the teacher wasn't going to help her. It was going to be a peer that's going to help her through this. The story is profound because, for one thing, it's not something you see typically when you walk into a preschool classroom. Typically, you'll see the teacher sitting and the children are surrounding her. Normally, you'll see the teacher leading the discussion. So now it's time to do this, and now it's time to do this. Where in this preschool room, it was really all about the children, and they had the responsibility of doing this special time together. So another reason why this is profound is because in this moment in time, you see that the teacher is thinking about, how do I help the children be responsible for this task?
The power behind the principal, I guess, really depends on the teacher and the paradigm shift she needs to have. So, for instance, when we're thinking about children and community, one of the things that is often taken away is the space for children to talk with one another, but we know from Vygotsky and others that learning happens in a powerful way when I'm in a social interaction with another person. I see my friend accomplishing something that's a little bit too hard for me, but I'm inspired and I'm encouraged and I can see how it happens, and so I want to do it. So in that case, in a classroom where we haven't allowed for that freedom, what it looks like when I give a child nothing less and nothing more is that I create space for children to work together. It could look totally different in a different classroom because the principle is really about the teacher thinking about the truth of that principle and then finding places in her classroom where she needs to create room for that principle, where it needs to exist but it hasn't before.
Go, Collie, go! Chloe, no, chaos. You chaos. Yeah.
One of the roles of an adult is to prompt and guide children. And then when you bring in the principle of give them nothing more and nothing less for their learning, you're watchful to know that they know what the prompt is, they know the thing to do, but they need time and space to think about it. So when we sit in classrooms where principles are manifested, we see adults being quiet for long periods of time while a child's thinking about what's the next thing I need to do. It's very difficult for children to be autonomous in a classroom community when adults don't allow for that space. That's the thing they need. The thing they need often is for adults not to step in and for adults to give children time to remember and to then decide to do it. I guess the thing I think about in terms of a provocation for community is this telephone. and the adults recognizing how important it is for children to be able to communicate with each other and with the adults, that children be given space to become messengers and to receive messages. Children naturally want to play telephone. They get on the phone and imitate their mothers, they imitate their doctor, but what they're really trying to do is create community through conversation. And in classrooms where we allow for that, children are the ones noodling out ideas rather than teachers telling them how to think.
Children around 4, even before then, really are thinking about their role. But they're looking at themselves as who I am within this group, who am I within this community.
My little go line up. Carter, that's you. Thor, wanna go line up? And you told Carlos go line up. Everybody may go line up.
I think it's exhausting to see yourself as the judge, the jury, and the police when you're in a classroom. And I think the benefit of seeing your classroom as a community and yourself as a member in the community, as a learner in the community, is that it's not exhausting, it's exhilarating and it's uplifting and it's inspiring, because we're creating space for everyone to step into their own greatness, for everyone to use their own knowledge to solve problems. And one of the consistent messages I get from the teachers that I support is that they didn't know what children were capable of. They spent so much time stealing children's joy. They never, ever thought they would experience so much inspiration by watching children maintain the order and the norms rather than them doing it. And what they've learned is that children are so much more than what they thought, and that they're so much more than what they thought, because as a facilitator, they're bringing out more in the child than they've ever been able to do before.
Oh, the power of thinking.